Hello everyone, my name is Petteri Kivima and I am the CTO of NIS. Building a digital society and digitizing public services both nationally and across borders are hot topics globally right now. Secure data exchange is one of the key enablers that is required to be in place to be able to success in this task. The good news is that there are already solutions and building blocks available that can be used for the job. One challenge regarding the available solutions is that it may not be easy to find a single solution that can be used to exchange data with other organizations at cross-border, national, regional, and city government levels. Instead, data exchange with different organizations takes place in various ecosystems that are based on different technologies. The result may be multiple channels to different ecosystems and platforms that all provide a different way to exchange data. It goes without saying that XRoad is one of the available solutions. It can be used at national, regional, and city government levels. Also, businesses can use it to implement new digital services and products. In addition, XRoad provides built-in support for cross-border data exchange through federation, which means joining together two XRoad ecosystems. Members of the federated ecosystems can publish and consume services with each other as if they were members of the same ecosystem. Another solution that is often mentioned in the same context is eDelivery, a building block of the Connecting Europe facility. XRoad and eDelivery both have been successfully used in multiple implementations in several countries and projects. At first glance, they may seem very similar, even competitors to each other. Instead, to avoid having multiple access points to different ecosystems, wouldn't it make more sense to try to connect XRoad and eDelivery with each other? Technically, XRoad and eDelivery are both based on distributed architecture and they are enablers of decentralized data management. They have many characteristics in common in both architectural and technical level. For example, distributed architecture and use of digital certificates. Despite the similarities, they also have many differences when looking into the details. For example, trust models and how the ecosystems are operated. However, they are similar enough to be connected. This has been proved by a technical proof of concept project by NIS, a gateway that connects XRoad and eDelivery infrastructures. XRoad eDelivery Gateway is a solution that connects an XRoad ecosystem and an eDelivery policy domain to one another. The gateway enables data exchange between organizations using XRoad and eDelivery as if they were using the same platform. Organizations use their existing XRoad security server or eDelivery access point to exchange data regardless of the solution used by the other data exchange party. Instead of setting up and maintaining multiple access points to different platforms, it's possible to connect to various platforms using a single existing solution. Thanks to its centralized nature, the gateway is entirely maintenance-free to its user organizations. The gateway is maintained and operated by the gateway operator, a role that naturally fits the XRoad operator. Ideally, the gateway is deployed at the national level and it can be connected to one XRoad ecosystem and multiple eDelivery policy domains. The basic idea behind the approach is to enable consuming eDelivery services using XRoad security server and XRoad services using eDelivery access point. The gateway connects an eDelivery policy domain and XRoad ecosystem infrastructures using an adapter service component between them. The adapter converts request and response messages between eDelivery AS4 profile and XRoad protocols. In addition to custom-made adapter service component, an eDelivery access point and XRoad security server are essential parts of the gateway since they are needed to communicate with both infrastructures. XRoad eDelivery Gateway is a work in progress. However, the implementation is currently on hold since eDelivery is being expanded to cover REST services too, in addition to the current SOAP-based AS4 profile. In addition, there haven't been any real-life use cases in Estonia and Finland that could have been used to develop the selected approach further. Therefore, the implementation is currently on hold, and the schedule will be updated at a later date. Thank you for listening, and now it's time for questions.
Okay, Petteri, can you hear me again, sir?
Hello, yes, I can hear you very well.
Good, good, good. Okay, so thank you for your talk about connecting the XRoad infrastructure to an eDelivery infrastructure. And first of all, let's try and back up for a second here. Maybe there are some people who are not familiar with eDelivery. Let's break down what eDelivery is in a bit more details. Can you take some time to explain that?
Yes, certainly. So eDelivery is a building block by the Connecting Europe facility, and it's it's on a high level. It is a data exchange solution, just like XRoad. So it can be used to implement cross-border data exchange between different organizations. So a single access point to exchange data. However, the deployment model of eDelivery in general is a little bit different from XRoad, since XRoad is commonly deployed on a national level, and all kinds of organizations then use XRoad to exchange data. Instead, eDelivery is typically implemented inside a policy domain, so that, for example, business registries, they have their own eDelivery policy domain, and then there's another policy domain for exchanging electronic prescriptions, for example.
Okay, sure. Okay, so we've got you said there's an eDelivery for prescriptions or an eDelivery for a business register. And would an eDelivery then just be inside of one country, or is it more a pan-European, like would it just be business registers from multiple countries having an eDelivery, or are they still inside of one country?
No, it is a European solution. So different business registries from different countries would join the same eDelivery policy domain, and then they could exchange data cross borders. But then when we are talking about data exchange on a national level, so within a country, typically eDelivery is not used for that, but instead that's something that XRoad typically does.
Okay, I think we're starting to build a picture here of the two different solutions. So in Estonia's case, the classic example, the country can internally build a whole collection of services that different departments might use, and then the XRoad can be one interface to the outside of the country that can then be connected to from different countries, maybe usually via their XRoad, where eDelivery would be business registers, for example, in multiple countries talking and exchanging data between their business registries. But typically then, the eDelivery is not a solution for another service inside of the country to connect with. Something along these lines? Is this where we're going with it, do you think?
Yeah, exactly. I think that it describes the difference very well.
Okay. So we're all achieving a similar goal of connectivity, but they're coming about it from a different way. And you can understand that there are, at a very high level, bureaucrats and policymakers might look at eDelivery and say that, okay, this has some advantages, because I can see that eDelivery might have an advantage for countries that do not have a solid infrastructure internally, like Estonia and Finland. If you're very far behind the game, it might be quicker to implement eDelivery between business registers rather than think, oh, gee, I got to put a whole XRoad in. can you explain a little bit at a higher level how the two can fit together, or where the two different philosophies come from?
Yeah, of course, it's true that if a country doesn't have an existing infrastructure and they need quickly connect with other countries to exchange business registries data, for example, then it's easier and faster to set up a single access point to exchange that particular data. But then probably sooner or later they also need to exchange e-prescriptions, population registry data, other domains. And then with this approach, they would need to implement a new access point every time for each domain. And still they haven't resolved the problem how to exchange data in a unified way inside a country. But when you implement XRoad, or when a country implement XRoad initially, they need to put more effort on it. But then in the long run, it pays itself off, because it resolves the problem how to exchange data inside a country in a unified and secure way, and also how to exchange cross-border data. And then when it comes to connecting these infrastructures, of course, we would like to see more countries joining the XRoad family, but at the same time, we also realize that there will always be countries that are not using XRoad. And XRoad using countries like Estonia and Finland, they will need to be able to exchange data with those countries as well. And by implementing such a gateway, we want to make the data exchange as easy as possible. And of course, in general, we want to be compatible with European solutions.
Sure. It does sound like there may be some sort of hybrid solution, both looking technically and then at least politically, something's going to happen like this. And your presentation gave us an insight into the technical side. And it does sound like there's sort of a bit of architecture to be done from your perspective to say, okay, this is going to happen at a European level. There's going to be some of these e-delivery platforms out there, and we have to work out how XRoad can sort of fit with that.
Yeah, that is something we have to do. But like you said, now I concentrated on the technical point of view of things. But then, yes, there are administrative and legal questions as well. And from my opinion, they are a lot more complicated than the technical ones.
I would tend to agree with you with that one, Petteri. Let's go to a few of the questions here, see if you can answer this. A very technical one here. Will AS2 or AS4 be incorporated eventually?
Through the gateway component. So the idea is not to build support for AS2 or AS4 natively in XRoad. So we are not going to bring support to them into XRoad protocol stack, but instead we implement a converter solution between the ecosystems that does the required conversions and makes it possible for the two ecosystems to communicate.
Okay, I'm sure that made sense. And your architecture diagram did make sense. It was pretty straightforward. Okay, we're going to need a component that sits in the middle. On one side, talks to an XRoad. On the other side, talks to an eDelivery. Where in the architecture then, this XRoad to eDelivery gateway, where do you see that sitting? Because now we've got to have, well, someone's got to run it. Let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to think. Let's say we're a country, we're Estonia, we've got an XRoad, and I want to connect to an external eDelivery system. Is the job of me in Estonia to implement that gateway, or who implements that?
The idea is that the gateway is maintained centrally, and in every XRoad ecosystem, there is already an organization called XRoad operator that is responsible for running the ecosystem, setting the rules and operating it technically. So naturally, it will be the XRoad operator who runs the component. And in Estonia, that organization would be the Estonian Information System Authority.
Right. Okay. So, sorry, yeah. So, okay. What I'm trying to get with this is about how it sort of gets technically implemented. And so then we have, sorry, this gateway exists in each country then. So if I've got my XRoad here in Estonia, I've got to implement my own XRoad to eDelivery gateway. That's what you were saying.
Yeah, that's our approach. So that
Okay.
Estonia has its own gateway, Finland has its own, and Iceland has its own, and every country using XRoad has its own gateway, and they are responsible for operating it.
Okay, and I mean, if there are, let's say there's one e-delivery platform for business registry, there's one for, I don't know, healthcare or something else, do I need to maintain multiple gateways for multiple different e-deliveries, or is this XRoad to e-delivery interface generic across different e-delivery endpoints?
The idea is to make it generic so that it's enough to have a one gateway instance and it can be connected to multiple e-delivery policy domains.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, Petteri, we're out of time. Thank you for dealing with all the thorny questions. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.